Alright, so here are the two boards I'm using as inspiration for my project. Each one has elements that I like and a few things that I do a little bit differently. First off, I really like that these designs are half epoxy and half bare wood. That balance between natural grain and resin gives the boards a clean, modern look, and I'm definitely keeping that in my version. Second, I love the way the colors fade from dark to light. It adds a lot of movement. But instead of going with the typical ocean blues like in these examples, I'm going to experiment with some different color combinations and see what happens. Next up is the wood itself. The board on the right uses a dark wood that looks bold, looks dramatic, while the one on the left has a lighter tone that feels clean and bright. I actually like both of these, so I'm going to be working with multiple woods in my design. And finally, the shape. The square board feels a little bit plain to me, while the one on the right has a little bit more personality with its unique outline and built-in handle. This is the direction I want to go, something that has a little bit more character, plus definitely a handle for function. Armed with these, let's get to work on how we'll do ours. Overall, I think this project's going to be pretty simple. We'll start with a raw board, cut it down, and glue a couple pieces back together to get us a plank wide enough for a serving platter. That's just going to be basic woodworking, cutting, gluing, planing, the usual stuff. From there, the fun part will kick in. We'll sketch out a unique shape, cut it out, and then move to the epoxy. I'll be layering colors from dark to light, blending them together to create some movement and depth. Once everything dries, I'll add a finish, and we'll have ourselves a serving board that's both functional and one of a kind. Let's get to work. I'm going to start out by cutting my stock wood down with my miter saw, each piece cut to about 19 inches. From there, I'll run the boards over to the joiner to get one clean flat edge. That gives me a solid surface for gluing two pieces together. After the glue up, I've got boards around 19 inches long and 12 inches wide, plenty of room for a serving tray. For this project, I'm using three wood types: maple, walnut, and mahogany. Each has its own character. Maple's got this bright, clean look, walnut is dark and bold, and mahogany has that warmish red tone. The wood itself does a lot of the heavy lifting and how these final pieces will look. This glue's going to dry up really quick, only about 30 minutes or so, mostly because it's got no stress on it, it's just holding two jointed pieces together. So once they're all set, I'll run the boards through the planer. A few passes gets them perfectly flat, even, and a consistent thickness. I'm aiming for about 3/4 of an inch, which I find is a good balance of sturdy and lightweight. Now comes just a little bit of creativity designing the board shapes. Each one of these is going to have a handle with a hole drilled at the top for hanging. So for that, I'm using a Forstner bit to lay these out. From there, I'll sketch out different outlines freehand. It's a balance of imagination and practicality. You want these designs to look good, but also be a functional serving tray. Cutting these shapes out is a two-step process. I'll drill the hole first in the drill press, then cut the outlines with the jigsaw using a fine-tooth blade, cutting a bit proud of the line, knowing that I can clean things up a bit later on in the shaping process. After the cuts, it's over to the belt sander where I'll use the rounded edges of the belt to help even out the curves and get the shapes as symmetrical as possible. They won't be perfect, but that's the charm of handmade work. From there, I sand everything to 150 grit, round over the edges on the router table, and do a bit more hand sanding. And now they're ready for the epoxy. For the epoxy, I'm using a standard 2-part A-beam resin tinted with a bunch of different powdered dyes. I've never done this before, so this whole part is total experimentation. Instead of the typical ocean blues that you see with these boards, I'm working from darker base colors up into the lighter colors with that final splash of white at the top to add that foamy effect. I'll pour each of these colors in layers and then use a heat gun to blend them together. The heat gun helps the epoxy flow like water, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. It gives it this nice sense of movement across the board. And here's the thing, this part can feel really intimidating. You're staring at this kind of blank canvas of wood and epoxy, and it's easy to think, what if I mess this up? But honestly, you really can't. This is part serving tray, but mostly just art. What looks like a mistake to you might be the thing someone else falls in love with. I showed these boards to my wife afterwards, and the one I thought I'd completely botched, the one that I almost hated, was her favorite. Beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder with projects like this, so relax, experiment, and just let the epoxy do its thing. And one more tip, always put something underneath your boards before pouring. Epoxy drips everywhere and it's basically liquid glue. So the last thing you want is your project permanently bonded to your workbench. The good news is, within 24 hours, it's fully cured and ready for the next step. After the pour, you're always going to have some drips underneath, and that's no big deal. An orbital sander with 80 grit knocks them down really fast. I'll then work my way up through the grits. I'll hit it with a damp rag to raise any grains. One more quick sanding at 220, and these things are ready for a finish. For the finish, I'm using my absolute favorite, Rubio Monocoat. Like the epoxy, it's a 2-part mix, 3 parts oil to 1 part hardener. It's food safe, which makes it a perfect choice for serving boards. There is just nothing better than brushing on your finish and seeing that wood grain come alive. The maple gets warmer, the walnut turns rich and chocolatey, and the mahogany just starts to glow. How can this not be your favorite step? It's like the board finally reveals its true colors. After about 30 minutes, the stuff's dry to the touch. A quick wipe down with a clean rag, and we're ready for some final touches. And with that, these boards are done. Ready to hang, ready to serve, ready to just sit on the counter and look good. Appreciate you sticking around to the end. These boards were a blast to make and overall really simple. I was able to do them in a weekend, and most of that was waiting for the epoxy to dry. I can't wait to share the next project with you. Until then, keep building, keep creating, and thanks for watching. Whoop. Sorry, dude. Didn't mean to wake you.